Welcome, 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 and thank you for spending some of your time with us. My name is Tina Rosenquist, and this is Knowledge for Wellness. And this show is to better inform you, because the more information you have, the better decisions you can make. And knowledge is power. And today's topic is on techniques to change to a better you. And bringing us is Joni Polina. Welcome, Joni.
Well, thank you very much, Tina. I'm so glad to be here.
And I'm so glad that you're here to educate my viewers. And what a great concept. Change to a better you. Love it.
Marvelous. I'm so glad that you do, Tina.
Yeah.
It's something we can all be involved in and all work toward. And it's very important because as we each feel better about who we are, we actually raise the vibration of the earth. And when we do that, marvelous things can happen.
Wow. And I'm sure my viewers would love to hear about that. But before we get into all of that great information, really would like for you to take a minute, talk about yourself, your passion, your love, and why you decided to go into this line of work.
Okay. Well, for 30 years, actually, I have been a recreation therapist in mental health.
Okay.
That means that I worked with people with schizophrenia, manic depression, and depression, and I helped them live in the community. And as I was doing that, I realized that, yes, I was working with an illness that a person had, but underneath it all, we're all the same. Yeah. We're all humans. And we all have the same reactions. We all have the same responses in many ways. And I have always had a passion for growth. So I've always been interested in helping people learn to grow. How do we do that? What does our brain need to be involved in? How do we pay attention to those kinds of things? So as I was studying and learning information about how the brain reacts to different kinds of techniques and medications and all of the above, I actually was looking for something to help my father, who had Alzheimer's disease.
Okay.
And I went to 2 brain conferences about a month apart, national speakers, and they both said, there's evidence that shows that Brain Gym can help people with Alzheimer's. At that point, I had no idea what Brain Gym was. I didn't have any knowledge about any of it, so I looked it up on the internet, and I signed up for classes to start taking some of it because I really wanted to help my dad.
Oh, sure.
And I was actually not able to do that because he had a massive stroke and died, but he led me to this.
Sorry, yeah.
Thank you. And as part of my training then, I continued to find out more information about how we can use this kind of information to not only help people who are ill, but to help every one of us feel better about who we are and how that works. So for several years I studied while I was still continuing to do the work with people with major mental illness. And then about 4 years after that, since 2005, I've been on my own, helping individuals, companies, families, groups of people all work together, in many instances getting their brain on the same topic, or just helping people to feel good about who they are and where they're going so that life becomes easier for us all.
Yeah, life can be very, very difficult. And
Absolutely.
It's so great that you can help them, being positive with a lot of things too.
Thanks.
As well. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. So the work that I do now then is, for the most part, helping individuals release old traumas or emotional upsets or just past experiences that they're not comfortable with, but that we store in our bodies. Our mind operates us between 5 and 12%, and our subconscious mind operates us the rest of the time, which is quite a bit. So we have to actually go into the body to release those pieces that are not helpful, that we've reacted to, that we have had a trauma stored. We go into the body and we repattern those pieces so we can let go of the emotional component that is the piece that holds us back.
Okay.
When we are re-experiencing a trauma, often we will get a response like that as time goes on. And we need to take one step at a time to go back into what is that trauma that we experienced, where are we holding it in our body, and let's let it go. And interestingly, as I have done that with people, all parts of their lives start to shape up. I had a woman named Julie come in, and she had a number of traumas as a young person, infant and upward. And some of them she had buried so deeply that she didn't even remember them.
Oh.
But we worked for a couple of different months, and it wasn't every week. It was maybe once a month or every 6 weeks. And after about 6 months, she came in one day and she said, I have the funniest response to tell you about. And I said, well, what's that? Mm-hmm. She said, you know, I've gone to my hairdresser, and my hairdresser said to me, what are you doing? All of a sudden your hair looks like it's a lot healthier than it used to be.
Ah, amazing.
And she said, I've gone to my massage therapist who said, are you doing something different? Because all of a sudden all those knots you used to have in your back aren't there anymore.
Okay.
And she said, even my family has said to me, what are you doing, Julie? Your skin looks so much better than it has in a long time. You have this glow about you. Mm-hmm. And she said to me, you know, I never realized that when we clear up what's going on and upsetting us on the inside, it helps all of the outward pieces feel much better as well.
Yeah.
And so she was living proof, and she said, my family's just thrilled, and I'm thrilled. Mm-hmm. So that's a nice piece.
Well, that's a nice story. And I know that we all want to have a really good quality of life as well.
Absolutely.
Now, you were talking about your father, of course. Now, your father had Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. And now this Julie, and she sounds like she's a younger gal. Mm-hmm. So do you specifically hit any type of age range, or is it pretty broad and hitting a lot of different people?
You can use this kind of work with anyone, absolutely.
All right.
It works for all ages. It even works for infants.
Okay.
And when we're working with infants, we generally work more with the parent to transfer information to the infant.
Okay.
But young children all the way up to seniors have come in to see me. And we actually stop and take a look at what is the upsetting piece that's going on here. Okay. What's the thought that flits through your head, or what emotional experience have you had that you think, oh, I don't want to think about that. Mm-hmm. Because those are the emotional pieces we want to clear, we want to get rid of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I know a lot of us have a tendency to kind of push it away because they don't want to dwell on it and bring ourselves down on it in that sense. But as American people, we have a tendency to love the scientific proof.
Absolutely.
And we like statistics, and we like to know that, even though that's a great story about Julie, you know, because then if you were one of her friends, that'd be great because you saw the improvement and a better quality of life for her. But a lot of people look for exactly the scientific proof. Is there any in this situation?
Well, that's interesting that you ask. The scientific proof is finally starting to catch up with all of the intuition that people have had for centuries.
Yes.
And that is the part that we're so excited about, because I think people used to see us as voodoo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What in the world are you doing over there? How does that work? And yet, we have information written in all kinds of scientific literature that speak to how what we believe in our thoughts, where our thoughts go, what we hold as beliefs, controls what happens in our body, in our system. And interestingly, sometimes pieces are handed down through mom's side of the family or dad's side of the family. Oh. And they aren't even pieces that are ours created, but they've been passed down. And we really need to help clear some of those kinds of connections as well.
Sure.
Because often I find with clients, some of the hardest things for them to deal with are pieces that are handed down from family members and not pieces they've created on their own.
Right.
So that's an important piece to keep in mind. Mm-hmm. I was going to just mention that Wayne Dyer, and I have the book out here, you'll see it when you believe it. Written in the 80s, actually. He's been around for quite a while, and he's been doing profound work. Starts out in his early days talking about how important it is that we keep our thoughts on what it is we want to create in our lives.
Sure.
You've probably heard, and maybe many of your viewers have also heard, of The Secret.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And The Secret talks about manifesting what it is we want to have become real in our lives. And 30 years ago, almost, 30 years ago, Wayne Dyer has been talking about this kind of information and encouraging people to dream the life they want to live, to keep their thoughts on good things, and to be persistent so that we're constantly keeping it in the forefront of our thoughts. When we do that, our energy raises, and we actually draw to us the kind of materialized pieces that we choose. And it's very important.
Yes.
So Wayne starts to talk about it from an intuitive level. But recently we've had people like Bruce Lipton, who was a medical doctor and who was actually teaching in a medical school, teaching other doctors in a medical school. And he was starting to do research on the genetics and the cellular growth and communities, and realized that he could no longer teach the kind of medical information that he used to because he had proven them wrong in some of his experiments. So Bruce talks about what actually is going on in the body when we have beliefs. When you have a negative belief, what's happening? When you have a positive belief, what's happening? And we raise our vibrations when we have positive beliefs. And literally, the law of attraction, or the secret, as some people call it, tells us that when we have positive vibrations, we literally pull to us pieces that have that equal vibration. When we have negative thoughts, we have low vibrations, and we will draw negative things to us. Now, it's not as if I say, yes, I want to have a car accident today. We don't do that. However, if we're in the dumps, we may draw activities or pieces in our lives that are of equal vibration. And that doesn't work so well. We draw the negative. Another person that I would like to bring up is Norman Doidge, and he's recently written a book called The Brain That Changes Itself. And Norman Doidge, I believe, is an MD as well. And his book is very much full of the kinds of transformations people have made with their brain. And in fact, one of the really interesting pieces was a story about three doctors. One was a professor at a college, and his two sons were also medical doctors. And he had a massive stroke and lost the full use of one side of his body. His two sons, the doctors, decided one of them was going to take him home and said, Dad, we're starting over. We're going back to infancy, and you will now learn to crawl and then work your way up through all of the developmental steps that you did as an infant. So he did. And in 2 years, he was back teaching at the college level. He had literally gone back and retrained his brain to be able to do the things he needed to do, to use it at the capacity that he had previously. That's a pretty amazing story.
That is. That's very powerful,
Yes, and to give, I think, readers, viewers, all of the people in the world, the knowledge that there are lots of things that are possible. So if we believe it cannot happen, guess what? That's what'll happen.
Yes, exactly.
So it's really important to be open to the possibilities. What kinds of things can happen, and how do we get there?
Okay. Well, that sounds like a great story, and I know that there's probably a few more stories out there with some other viewers as well that probably want to reach out a little bit to you. So could you expand a little bit and let my viewers know who else that you actually would help too in other situations?
Sure. I guess I would step back and say that this work is for anyone because we all have emotional upsets in our history. And those emotional upsets start the pattern for us to watch out for things. The amygdala in the midbrain is always looking for negativity. It's always looking for patterns that we've been through in the past. And it might say, oh, don't go there, we tried that once before, and remember that was terrible. Oh, don't talk to that person, last time we had a fight. And it's constantly looking for negative things that we've experienced.
Is it a protective device also?
To keep us safe, absolutely. The amygdala is wanting to keep us safe. Well, in some respects, it's a little hard to be positive all the time when the amygdala is always looking for the negative.
Yes.
So we have to get the amygdala to settle down.